following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another great episode of Collect-Opolis. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Ernie Moreno.
And I'm Kevin Toft.
We are going to go through all of our amazing guests on the show, and we're going to show you some of the big highlights from this year. Not only just talking to them about what they do, but also what they collect. And I think that's what we're all about here, right, Kevin?
I think so. And I think that might also be a good opportunity to show a few of the things that you and I collected this year.
You know, it's been a crazy year, I think, for both of us, and we were able to nab some really nice collectibles. I mean, I think we share one collectible in the same genre, but I think it's going to be a great show because, man, some of the stuff that we got this year, I mean, it's fun stuff. It's a lot of fun stuff, man. So let's go ahead and kick it over. We're going to do an episode recap.
Okay, so first up, episode 1, I found because of the groups I'm involved in on Facebook. I follow the Replica Prop Builders Forum and other sci-fi model builders, and this person's work kept showing up in my feed over and over again. And the more I examined it, the more I was going, hey, wait a minute. His name's Jason Eaton. He's an artist, but he's also a huge Star Wars fan. And he is an enthusiast in the world of studio scale. Studio scale is the size that they use to film the movie. One of the most fascinating parts in this interview is when it's revealed that Jason receives real X-Wing parts. And I say real as in X-Wings from A New Hope.
From the source.
Yes. So I will let Jason tell us all about that.
The first thing I pull out is a hero shell, like unused, production made. They didn't.
Wow, look at that thing.
And it's super warped. It's like, because it sat in storage for like 40 some years. But this was, I said, you just sent me the Rosetta Stone because this is every panel line, and you can kind of see there are panel lines underneath the droid strip, like that you've never seen. And it gives you like locations for the armature that they had made, like there were little machined acrylic blocks that went over the metal, and it keys into this. Well, also in that box, I got half a pyro shell.
Whoa!
And this is what he thought would be like most helpful because it gives all the panel lines.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, this is also crazy warped. Like it takes it.
Oh yeah.
But it shows you like what they were thinking with construction and stuff.
And you can tell that's a cast because it has the nose already placed on it.
Yeah. And it's like, this is literally like eggshell. This was a foamed resin that was designed to break apart as easily as possible. So I'm shocked.
Oh.
I'm shocked it didn't break in his possession, and I'm absolutely shocked it didn't break being mailed. You know, it was like, good Lord. It was definitely one of those, like, I don't trust the post office at all these days.
Right.
But even like 3 years ago, I was like, no. I see how they are in Baltimore. But then I also got wings. They're foamed pyro wings. I think NG might mean no good. I'm not entirely sure. But the great part about this is it's the white. Like there's a lot of debate. People will like scream and yell at each other sometimes over like, how did they paint them? The first wave were painted white. Like it's not like bone white, but
so now you see what I mean. What he has access to answered some big questions the community been looking for, and that they were able, now the X-Wings that are being created are the right length, the panels, all the panels are in the right place. It's really helped take it to the next level. He was already taking it to the next level with 3D printing, but the more whenever they have a discovery like this, they're able to bring it into the work in the community, and these X-Wings that are coming out of the modeling community are just absolutely fantastic now.
It just speaks to how great the community is to not only when somebody gets this information, they don't hide it, they don't try to kind of hoard it away. The second they discover something new about paint, about scale, about the correct movement of something, any kind of undulation that happens with like the X-Wing, how it opens, blah, blah, blah.
They're all talking about it.
All talking about it because they all want to share it because they just want to see more and more and more of this stuff.
Right.
Replicating props is just, it's an art form in and of itself. And Jason is just one, extraordinary example of a person that knows their stuff and does the research for all.
And I also find it fascinating that he likes to take the things from the Star Wars sketchbook and build those models from scratch, because there is no template for that. There's just a few paintings by Ralph McQuarrie or Joe Johnston or whomever, and that he and also other members of the community will take those and they'll build those and challenge each other. Hey, we're gonna do the snow speeder, or we're gonna do the sand crawler, or whatever, and they do those, and man, those are also really fascinating as well, because we never see them realized beyond the painting or sketch. And now he's doing it at studio scale, building it in the same style, same fashion, and like, this is what the Sandcrawler could have looked like had they picked this one instead of the one they ultimately went with. Wow, it's just amazing. The other fun thing we like to do is ask the question, right? So I started this thing where these people that are able to create and make wonderful things, pretty much anything that they can imagine, there has to be a line in the sand. Okay, what did you decide you had to buy rather than create?
These are people that can create whatever they want.
or sometimes buy whatever they want, or, and in this case, it's interesting to see what they chose. Why don't we take a look right now at Jason's picks?
What does a guy like you collect? Because you can basically build whatever you want, but what do you actually go out there and collect?
Like name 3 things you
okay bought yeah okay, well, you can see it there, the barrel from Jaws. So I don't know wait.
The barrel from Jaws.
Yeah, it's not like production used, but okay, so the original barrels that were made in the film are apparently exceptionally rare and go for a lot of money. Wow. And they're these giant polypropylene barrels that say "Born Free" on the bottom. Yeah, and someone got so somebody had like a quantity of them that were unpainted, so I guess they were like black polypropylene with a blue screw on top. I guess that's important. And I think that might have been from production, and someone got their hands on one of them and made a mold and did a very small run in polypropylene. Like, that mold was metal, I think. Like, it must have cost so much money to make this thing. Like, and that showed up, and my wife was like, "Oh, great!" Like,
it's a barrel. He's like, "But it's the barrel."
Yeah, it's a barrel. Yeah, it's a barrel, and it's right next to the TV, so we can stare at it every night.
Let's think about it. If a shark ever comes, we're ready.
Yeah. Well, for what it has to be this only one,
right.
Like, surely 3. Then we're in trouble. We'll need a bigger boat. So yeah, the Jaws barrel, I don't know why. And it's not polarizing, but like, you can tell a Jaws fan when they come in the room and they're like,
yep.
And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, good God. Like, that's like the last thing anybody thinks that I'd be like.
How about that? The barrel from Jaws.
Exactly.
On an
all this kind of stuff. He decides, I need a yellow barrel from Jaws.
Right. Well, because I'm gonna call him out right now. He's a cinephile, just like me. He loves cinema, and there's these great moments in cinema, and he caught a piece of it, just like the Star Wars crew shirt iron-on.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those small things that's, again, like you're saying, behind the scenes, something that was meant only for a small group of people, and yet somebody found it, was able to replicate it enough to
that's
have
an original one.
That's an original one.
Yeah.
Wow.
He even tells us how to spot the fake.
Off the top of my head, and it's off the cuff, and it changes from like 2 hours ago when I was like thinking about my life. I think it comes from Gary Kurtz's collection, but it is an unused iron-on transfer of the first Star Wars shirt, the crew shirt, which is the Star Wars.
Whoa!
Oh, right,
It's
right,
not,
right.
This isn't it. This is a fan made a copy of it.
Sure.
But I've got. Oh, you can actually see it right there.
No, you can see that.
Yeah, and it's backwards, and you can get them. They're usually like they're only $10. No, they're like usually like they're like 100 or 150 if you're impatient or whatever. But they float around out there, and the paper's a little yellowed.
Cool.
And you have to be careful that it's not the fan club version, which I think says factors with a copyright. This is a unused production piece, which I'm like, oh. So that's one. And then the other thing, non-Star Wars, it's a poster of the Thing artwork by Drew Struzan, and he signed it, and they only made like a couple hundred, and Mondo, I think, sold it, maybe Bottleneck, but I'm almost positive it was Mondo. And I missed the run, so I had to buy it on the secondary market for $10.
The original, that's the original first run print,
I guess,
of the poster. Okay,
it's the poster art. They did two versions. One glows in the dark. This is not the glow in the dark one, but it has no writing. It's just the art of that, like.
Oh, and fantastic!
And it's signed by Drew Struzan. It's signed by.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you see his signature from the artwork, and then he signed the print, and it's like I don't know if it's a giclée or like a silk screen or something. So but that was something where I was like, I gotta do it.
So episode 2, we end up learning a thing about hats.
Oh yeah, we learned all about Fezes. Now, admittedly, I was new to this whole universe of Fezdom. I don't know what you guys call it in the world of Fez, but
I'll take
Fezdom. But their warehouse that looks like, I imagine this is kind of how Andy Warhol was back in the day. Just everything, so many creative things on the wall, so many projects going on at once. Honestly, guys, I wish we could have stayed there and filmed for a week.
We got to visit Fez-o-Rama HQ. And look, what did we receive?
Still so amazing. Look at it.
Look in all its glory. I even have an octopus tentacle holding. See this?
Well, let's cut to the clip where they present Kevin with this amazing looking Fez.
Today, we are here at Fez-o-Rama HQ to interview Jason and Maya Rogers. Hey, Ernie, do you like this Fez? Because no?
It's a little purple.
Hold on.
Let's go with something else.
How about this? Right here.
You're going to scare the kids with that. I don't think you should wear that.
All right. I got another idea. All right, how about this one?
I'm still not, I don't know. I'm just not feeling this one. Gotta be honest.
Here, try this on.
Behold. I think I found my new forever Fez.
Blue's definitely your color.
All right, here we go.
Wow. I mean, not only did we get the custom Fez, which by the way, I mean, I only presented them, I believe, with like a JPEG, maybe an SVG of that. And look at the fine quality on it.
Jason knows all there is to know about embroidery. Both Jason and Maya are brilliant artists. Jason has a very deep background in the textile world. He taught at FIDM. He knows when he has a color thread, what direction to tell it to lay down to catch the light a certain way. He can take, he knows that if you run it this way, it'll be more lean to cooler or warmer or more this. And if you do it the other direction, it'll pick up the light another way and cause a certain effect. Until you hold one of these in your hand, it's hard to really fathom the quality. It's not what you get at a costume store. And I believe it also rivals the quality of any of the Shriner Fezes that I've seen in person. There's a lot going on those Shriner Fezes, but at the end of the day, the build quality on these is second to none. These Fezes. Speaking
on the build quality, we didn't just see these full scale, Fezes. We also got to see the half scale, like the half scale Fezes. Now, no, I can tell, anybody can tell you, the smaller you go with something, the more intricate, the more difficult it is to get everything correct, because scale definitely makes things harder. So these little half scale Fezes they're awesome. They are awesome. Let's take a look at this, because let's take a look at the half scale Fezes, and let's also take a look at the embroidery detail. Let's show them both of that. Here we go.
One of the things that I've done is I've done a half scale Fez that I created. These were originally created for years I'd get asked, do you make Fezes for babies or do you make Fezes for my dog? And I'm like, no, I'm not making a Fez for your dog. Then Joel from Mystery Science Theater 3000 contacted me and said, would you make Fezes for the bots?
Oh.
And I'm like, yes, I will make Fezes for puppets. So I figured out how to make a miniature Fez. And I've been doing these, so I do these every once in a while with my Patreon. And I realized I didn't have a way to display them.
Right.
Just having them sitting on the table. So I started messing around with 3D printing and making like 3D printable stands. This is the key embroidery station I actually have. We have 4 embroidery machines now. This was the first like dedicated embroidery machine that wasn't attached to a sewing machine. And this is where like most of the production happens. We have our colors out on display so that I can find them. Working with color, it's a constant challenge to kind of figure out what works together. So I can have an idea of what I want it to look like, but until it's embroidered on the fabric, I can't really tell which shade of gold is going to look gold. So this is just a small 6-color machine. Like I said, this was our first one. It's been around for decades, and it's long in the tooth, and it has some quirks to it. But we're kind of emotionally attached to it. We have an old beater that we picked up used that will kind of fill in when one's going into the shop to get repaired.
Right.
And then I have a couple of 10-color machines so they can handle more colors over by my computer that I use for like initial thread tests and any design that requires more than 10 colors, more than 6 colors, obviously. So this is the Accursed Hedron. We just launched this one. We normally would be at Gen Con. Preparing for Gen Con every year. We're not going to be able to be at Gen Con this year, but we are still doing our limited edition run for Gen Con. So this is a fairly complex design. I kind of got carried away with this. So this maxes out how many colors I can use. It's not the longest embroidery, but this one takes about 85 to 90 minutes just to run this embroidery.
Right.
And obviously to run multiple thread tests, that kind of gets tedious. So what I tend to do on these is if I'm trying to figure out what colors I can use,
right,
I'll just kind of delete a bunch of sections so I just get what I need. And it might look good in my head, it might look good on the computer screen, and then I bring it into the real world and it's just way off. So like this, the yellows are just ridiculous. So, it took a while to get it dialed into the color. There's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 attempts on this one before I get it to a color I'm happy with.
Look at that. That turned out beautiful.
Yes. Thanks.
Now, episode 3 was it was crazy because Jay Machado is one of my old college buddies, went to school together. And when I heard that he had landed ILM, I was like, of course he did, because this guy's super, super talented. So I hit him up and I was like, we got to take a look at your collection because
it's vast.
At DC, Star Wars, we saw it, like, I don't know if we showed it on the show.
Turtles.
I can't remember. Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. I mean, there was just a little bit of everything in there.
He's got pretty good coverage across the board. And it's all pristine in boxes.
Pristine
inside
in box,
of plastic
everybody.
tubs. Yes.
And Jay's one of those people that's just like Jason, where he can create things, but unlike Jason, he creates things in the digital medium, and he was able to recreate
both
original Tim Burton Batman Batcave in Unreal Engine 4.
Yes, and we saw it work in progress.
Just like Jason, he was showing us when he was walking us through it, like we were behind him, he was showing us through the computer. He was like, so this is the fuse box that he uses to turn it on. And I was able to get all these different, specs from the movie and blah, blah, and he's just getting every single detail of that.
It's amazing.
From movie clips, from just freeze frames, all sorts of stuff.
He studies it. He studies it and he looks for a lot of behind the scenes stuff. He's done the research, and why don't we take a look at what this has produced, because it's amazing.
You're obviously a Batman fan. I'm most of your stuff is Batman. You've been working on a project to kind of, I don't know, pay homage to the original Keaton movie.
That movie was turning 30, and I think I saw randomly some picture of a guy posing next to the Batman vault, like where his costume is. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that would be fun to model. One of the things I love about my, this hobby and this community has grown. Like, with the internet, you used to never find this kind of stuff out, but now people have whole sites dedicated to figuring stuff out like this out, and even Star Wars and stuff too. But I built that vault, and then I was like, that's cool, but I gotta build the car. So I started modeling the car.
Whoa.
And then it'd be cool to model the car and like kind of like show it off inside like a Batcave environment.
Right.
So that kind of, I started roughing that out. And when I'm working I work in Maya, and I like to be as precise as I can. So I brought in all these camera angles from the movie of the Batcave, and I started to kind of line things up and figure out proportions of things. And then I found this behind the scenes photo, which I'd never seen before, where it's looking at the driver's side of the car, and you see the entire cave set.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, it was all a set. Like, it was all built. So then it sent me down this rabbit hole of figuring it all out. And one of the things I discovered is that there's some movie magic going on in the cave. And when Vicky Vale and Batman leave the cave, he turns on the lights, that big moment. There's a
spark.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's a cool story about modeling that, but I don't know, I'll get into that. But they walk into a door, which is basically the car is here, they get out of the car, there's a doorway here, and they walk out that door. Literally the next shot, they're coming through a door, clear across the cave, which if you look from their perspective, you see the car again. So it's kind of like, it's weird. I'll kind of show you in the scene that I have. But
so I think it's safe to say that Jay is a big Batman fan.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Not only because this guy does so much with his digital medium, but he's also a very, very accomplished cosplayer. He has a 3D printer, and he's not afraid to use it, especially with one of the most unique Batman costumes I have ever seen displayed. Now, you see, like, you go to Comic-Con, you go to WonderCon, you go to any of these cons, you'll see, like, okay, that's Dark Knight, that's original, Batman comic #1, that's, what do I want to say? That's
Dark
the
Knight,
Batman from the TV show, that's Adam West, that's this, all these people.
And you see fun mashups. You see mashups too. You see a lot of cleverness, but this was the first one of these I've ever seen.
Yeah, he decided to dress up as a literal action figure, and the image in the thumbnail for his episode does it justice, because he's holding literally the Kenner toy that he is basing it off of. He showed us how he put it on and everything. He looks like Kenner doll, all the way down to the stamp on the back of the leg.
Yeah,
that has
Kenner
the little
toys or
Kenner toys and everything. I mean, Jay.
If you look at the thumbnail in the video, it looks like a life-size Batman Kenner action figure holding the toy Batman Kenner action figure in front of the Yoda fountain at Industrial Light and Magic. Yeah. And as you're scrolling through, if you go look us up on Facebook, you'll scroll through and you'll go, hell, you might overlook that until you realize what's going on there. That's Jay.
And that's Jay behind the mask. And of course, because he knows how to create that little Batman helmet that goes on either side, of course, Jay created and makes Mando helmets. Of course.
And he makes them at a super duper high level, as you will not only see in the video, but he explains to what level. He actually got an opportunity to bring it on set, and everybody was blown away. He fits the mold of what we're doing here, right? These makers, these creators, and let's take a look.
Let's take a look at it. You went as a Kenner Batman figurine.
Yeah.
You got to tell us a little bit about that.
That was an idea I had. My friend Landis, who I mentioned, he bought me the Gentle Giant, like blown up superpowers Superman, I think. It might have been Superman, it might have been Batman, but I have both of them now. And I thought, I saw that thing at that size, and I was like, it'd be kind of cool to do. And initially I wanted to do the Superman and have it be like, he has like the blue eyes and the
Oh, wow.
And I was like, it'd be cool to 3D print or like make that suit. And eventually, this 3D printer came out by a company called Creality, and it was the first 3D printer that I saw that was like you could print really big. It can print basically 50 centimeters, like a cube.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that kind of opened the door for me to do big stuff like that. And I remember like we 3D scanned one of my figures. I spray painted it gray and 3D scanned it, and then cleaned it up in ZBrush and cut it up into pieces, scaled it so it fit around my body, and 3D printed them all. Yeah, and it was cool. It even has like the Kenner text on the
I was
leg.
about to say that because
Yeah.
it's he did the way that he modeled it. He has where the spots where the screws
grab
go
points.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has the molding things, but it actually says Kenner on the leg. It's really
Nice.
detailed. That's why I really think a lot of people were taking pictures with you. In that
Yeah,
like,
that was so much fun, and it's cool because like the toy has seams from like the molding process, so I was able to put those seams so it clamps around me like a suit of armor.
Oh wow!
It's super uncomfortable.
I was about
Yeah,
to
my
point to
arms,
that.
my arms are up like this all day, so it's not. My shoulders were killing me at the end of the day, and it's very loud too. And like
I mean, that's a far cry from what I'm seeing today because that Bhaskar helmet is like insane, man.
I mean, working on the show, and we actually had a full suit come in at ILM and on display, and I just went crazy taking photos of it on my phone, and came home, modeled it myself. My version 1 helmet, actually, like I was like, nah, I'm gonna mothball that. I'm gonna completely redo this model, and I remodeled it, 3D printed it, did all the Bondo and sanding that takes, and then molded that in silicone and then made castings of that.
Wow.
Yeah, you told me specifically the color that you have on there, the silver is specific, right?
Yeah, it's called a Lumiluster, and it's actually a little bit pricey in terms of paint, but there's no comparison. I tried everything. I tried Alclad and Spaz sticks, and nothing was the right sheen. And the second I hit it with the Lumiluster, it was like, oh my god.
By any chance, did you find out by working at ILM that's what they use, or did you just discover it on your own?
I discovered it through basically Facebook groups of people cosplaying, and Legacy Effects is the one who made all of the suits for the first season at least, and a lot of those people on the Facebook groups had connections with people at Legacy, and they figured out basically everything about that costume, what kind of shoes were used, which were off-the-shelf shoes, the kind of gloves that he wears.
Yeah.
All that stuff is I mean, production designers, like they source that stuff from somewhere, so they were able to figure it all out. And it's kind of interesting. Like similarly, working at ILM, I've done similar research on like spaceships, like where do these model kit parts come and stuff like that.
Okay, so episode 4, we got to meet Michael Corey from Props to History.
What a great guy.
Awesome dude. I found him on TikTok. I was cruising through there. I got the algorithm firing on all thrusters, and I was presented with Props to History. And boy, I just gobbled up all that content. And then I went over to his YouTube page and got all of that content, and I wanted more. And I'm like, we have to talk to this guy. And I reached out to him, and it turns out he's a heck of a guy. He's awesome. And he agreed to come on our show, and he is passionate about he not only prop history and all the lore that goes along with it, but he also has his own prop company called Coruscant Studios, and they make props for film and TV, and they're based out of Chicago. And again, he can make his own stuff if he wants. He can buy stuff. He does a bit of both. But one of his favorite items is the Book of the Dead from The Mummy, and he made one, and it's awesome. He also earlier this year got to go to Prop Store of London and see the real one in action. I believe it's inspired him that we'll see sometime possibly in 2023 that he's going to take another pass at his I believe his is static, and he wants to make a fully working one, but his static one is absolutely gorgeous. Let's take a look at it.
It started out as me trying to tell the story of props and how they connect to real world history. It started with the Book of the Dead, which is right there behind me, from 1999's The Mummy. The Book of the Dead was a real thing in ancient Egypt and whatnot. I had been doing this on sharing my work on Instagram and Facebook and a little bit on YouTube. And a friend of mine at my former employer said, hey, you should try TikTok. And in my mind, that was an app for teenagers. And I am not a teenager. It didn't belong there, but eventually I did. And the very first video I did was about the Book of the Dead. And it went viral. I think it had like 6 million views in the first day that it was on.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, people are interested in this stuff. So I've been a film and particularly prop and special effects historian, an amateur historian, for probably 10 or 15 years. And I've been a prop maker and a model maker for about 30 years. I actually do work in the industry. I just recently finished up a whole bunch of work for Magnum PI Reboot Season 4. And then also the Paramount film, I don't know if I can say the title of it, but a Paramount film here recently that doesn't come out until summer. But I am an actual active prop maker, and this started as a hobby and has now become the weirdest profession on the planet, where I tell people the history of movie props, how they're made, and more importantly, who made them.
Pretty cool, right?
It was amazing to see the kind of detail that comes in through that. Now, this is one of those. This is another one of these props that, you know, just like Jay, they're getting them just from stills. They don't necessarily have, when they start building these things, they don't necessarily have all the, you know, production notes or anything off of this. So I know a lot of this has to just be guessed at. And it's amazing.
It's a research project. These guys become ultimate researchers. Everybody we've talked to so far, in order to do what they do, research is a big part of the game for them.
Just shows the kind of dedication that he puts into a lot of his creations. Another thing that he showed us is Leia's helmet from Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
This is, you know, a lot of these props, when they are made for movies and whatnot, the construction of them is a story all their own. Specifically Leia's helmet. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I remember this helmet had to be made from a surplus of, what was it? World War II helmets?
It was like a tank driver's helmet or something. Well, let's take a look at it,
because he tells us about this. Yeah, about how they got these sourced and how he created Leia's helmet,
his own,
in the original way that they were made. Let's take a look.
And we love that. Yeah.
Leia's helmet from.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So what is that made from?
So underneath, they made a custom fiberglass ring to go around. It's often referred to as the donut.
Okay.
And then a custom top that was quilted. But underneath all of that is a World War II ANH-15 flight helmet. It's a cloth flight helmet from the Second World War. And that's an original. And I know that some people will be angry because they'll say you ruined an artifact. They made millions of these things.
Right.
And there's still hundreds of thousands of them in circulation. And when someone says that it's rare, I often go on eBay and see how many I can find. Generally, you can find about 20 of them for sale on eBay. That's not rare.
So yes, I love that replica. That is a great piece. I would love to have one of those in my collection, I suppose, if I wanted to go through all the trouble of sourcing that, maybe someday. But Mike has another thing he loves quite a bit. He like so many of us are Muppet fans, and the movie Muppets Take Manhattan, Mike was gifted with a piece that is from, I believe, towards the end of the film. There's a bit of a concert and all of the human fans of Gonzo are wearing these rubber noses. Right. And I could try to tell you about this, but let's let Mike explain this. This is pretty fascinating.
Speaking of your collection, is there a unique item that you have that's not necessarily the most expensive thing that you could have, but something that's fairly unique?
I do, as a matter of fact. About 6 months ago, I had the opportunity to go and meet a lot of folks in the industry in Atlanta. And in the process of meeting all these folks, I made a connection online with a gentleman named Thomas. I don't know if he wants me to use his actual name on here, but he was a Muppeteer on Muppets from Space. And I wanted to meet him because he's been a Muppeteer. I'd never met a Muppeteer before. And when I went to meet him, he says, I have something for you. and it's quite fragile and it needs to be restored. But he gave me this, and it is believed to be the last surviving Gonzo nose from Muppets.
Whoa!
Whoa!
You can see that you can see it's quite cracked. It's because of latex rubber.
Yeah,
has a lot of water in it, and over time that water dries out, and you get stretching and cracking, and it needs to be.
They were foam. I thought when I was watching them as a kid, I thought that was foam.
Well, so when I say that this is Gonzo's nose, at the end of the film, there's a concert, and there's a lot of fans of Gonzo, and they're wearing these masks. You can see the string.
Right.
It's just his nose. They're made out of latex rubber.
Yeah.
And this is believed to be the last of those that survive, because I've never seen another. And he gave me that, but he also, I need to turn the camera to show you. That right there is the Hensonville News Observer that Kermit is holding in the opening scene of the film.
Oh, wow.
And any pieces from Jim Henson, period, Muppets are extremely rare. And
beloved.
Yeah. And because I was given this by the Muppeteer, and the Muppeteer is a personal friend of mine, that is my most cherished piece in my collection.
Wow.
Because I have the story to it. It was given to me as a gift by a friend.
Yeah.
And it's just, for that, I absolutely love it. But that is my most unique piece in my collection.
So episode 5, we had the honor of interviewing a Hollywood and music industry icon, man by the name of Paul Williams, who has had a career that spanned decades.
Just mind-blowing career, man.
The movie A Star Is Born, the one that was done in the 70s with Barbra Streisand, he wrote a song that happened to win an Academy Award for that. With Barbra. Yes, I mean, he's such an amazing, talented songwriter. Not only did he win that, but he also wrote several songs for the Carpenters. I think he wrote for Three Dog Night. Well, let's just look. I got it right here on the collectible that he gave me.
That's such a, oh man, what a collectible.
7-Eleven Slurpee cup from the 70s. They did a singer-songwriter series. He wrote several songs for the Carpenters. It's just Rainy Days and Mondays. We've only just begun. Just an old-fashioned love song. I think that was Three Dog. I don't know. It's all in the interview. But more on his career, really quick. We'll show you the clip. But he also made a movie that was sort of a cult classic called The Phantom of the Paradise.
Right.
And that is a phenomenal piece of work. And again, it's reached that cult status, kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
And it's worth a look if you like that kind of stuff. So much so that two particular people are such big fans of that movie that they decided that they wanted to hire Paul to come help them with their album called Random Access Memories. Yes, Daft Punk. They are huge fans of Paul, and they are of the Phantom of the Paradise. So I think Paul wrote 3 songs for Random Access that he wrote lyrics for, and he sings on one of them. And yes, you may Google this. When Daft Punk wins Album of the Year, it is Paul that is up there speaking for the robots, speaking for Daft Punk.
The robots.
They're up on stage, and well, he refers to them as the robots. But you go from the 70s and all the way up till now, and you're relevant in everything you do. He's been in tons of movies, tons of TV shows. Google him. It's more than if I try to go through all the things he's done over all the decades, we're going to be here all day.
There's too much. And honestly, we couldn't get enough time with him, because not only is that guy an amazing talent, an amazing actor, all this kind of stuff, he's also a great guy. Just a fantastic human being.
Absolutely wonderful human being. Let's roll this. Go ahead and take a look. Paul's great. Hey, everybody. Hey, we're here with Paul Williams, and we're going to go ahead and ask him some questions about the cup. I want to break it down with him and talk and ask him a few questions about how it all came to be. So my first question is, how does something like this go down? Do they come to your management?
You know, I always leave a window open at night in case somebody really needs to talk to me. They can kind of, you know, very surreptitiously slide open the window, crawl in, and he'll like come over and poke me and wake me up and go, "Would you let us do it?" I have no idea how it.
Okay.
Kevin, I have no idea. All I know is that really that deep into my career, there's when you look at the cup, there's a couple things that are not mentioned on there, but it's you know, it was like what, 1970.
1970 is like right in the middle of it. I think they just kind of trying to cover the 70s. They weren't very specific.
Incidentally, they're very rare. You almost never find one. I think that's actually the last one in existence in the world. But you know, there's so much of the work that I'm doing these days is from people that love stuff that I did in the 70s that nobody else watched. You know, that whether it's, you know, Phantom of the Paradise or you know, fans of things that just kind of seemed to disappear. People that really love them would tell other people about them, and you really need to know about this and this. You know, this you really, you know. And what happens is all of a sudden you build that kind of a cult following for something. And it's just, you know, one of the nice things about this, Kevin, is it's a chance to actually say, you know, I'm grateful. Thanks very much for the people that have supported the stuff I've done through the years, and what they did by loving the things that the whole world didn't love is probably the best gift that I got, because I no longer refer to something that isn't a success right away as a failure.
Right.
When Daft Punk calls you, you know, and in 2014, because they loved your movie that came out in 1974 before they were born, you don't want to jump in and say, you know, well, Phantom of the Paradise was a flop. No,
it's that thing. It's that thing we talk about. You put stuff out in the universe, right? Then you put stuff out in the universe, and it sits there, right? And then it goes through its cycle, and then people come along and discover it, and boom, you know, it's amazing.
You know, really, really fanatic, wonderful, you know, loyal fans. Apes movies. I mean, I did Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and I get the amount of mail that I get related to the Apes movies is exorbitant compared to, you know, what you would think. You know, that was 1972 or something. I did that. I was the voice of the Penguin on the Batman animated series.
Yes. Oh yeah.
The animated Batman fans are amazing. And I've actually begun to, and I've never in my life until recently sold a time online or an autograph, but I do it now. I have a thing through the ASCAP Foundation called the Sunlight of the Spirit Foundation Award, which is basically it's honoring somebody who's doing really important work, you know, in music and recovery. You know, so it's, you know, every penny that is raised when I do these events goes directly to, you know, to the awards and to charity, you know. But
that is terrific.
Wow, that's terrific.
All right, and now episode 6, we check back in with our good friend. Now we're going to call him our good friend Jason Eaton, because
that's true. We can do that because he's been on 2 shows, so he's our good friend now.
He gave us a big update, Kevin. Is that right?
Well, at the end of episode 1, I brought up something that I saw he was working on, and that was a 12-inch diameter, I think, studio scale. I think that was the studio scale for the ion cannon from
That's right.
The Empire Strikes Back. When they escape Hoth, there's a large cannon that fires. Jason built one.
Right.
Yeah. Let's
take a look.
Take a look at that. Can you take us back through final assembly and into paint and terrain choices?
It was a warm summer day.
It's a warm June evening.
The meadowlarks were singing in the meadow.
Yeah, it was in the mid 100s.
I was facing north.
Vinyl was melting off of houses. So I made so briefly, the ion cannon was something that no one's ever had the ability to tackle. Certainly everybody has wanted to. This is the studio scale universe of nerds. There's dozens of us, dozens. It's not a huge scene, not like, you know, just regular modeling. It takes a certain kind of mental deficiency to think that this is a good idea financially to get into. So about a couple hundred of us, I guess. I don't know. And within that group, everybody kind of knows everybody, and everybody kind of knows what everybody's working on. But the ion cannon was something that everybody's always talked about wanting to do. A couple people had some false starts. I've always wanted to do it. We kind of knew the sizing. And over the years, I have had the absolute fortune, honor, privilege of knowing some of the guys that worked on these films. And that gives me access that some people normally probably could never get. I'm very grateful. I know it's a leg up. I know it's like, it incites anger and excitement in equal and opposite measures.
They love and hate you, Jason.
And the feeling is mutual. It's self-mutual. It's like, so I read this quick aside. I read this thing where somebody said, would you take $50,000 if you knew that the person you hate the most would get 100,000? And the very first response was like, I'd love $150,000. right. Oh, self-loathing.
That's good.
Nom, nom, nom.
Well, now that we got the update on the ion cannon, of course, Jason is always working on something. So what's the next thing he showed us? The probe droid.
Yep.
I mean,
it's from the sketchbook. It's from the Ralph McQuarrie painting of the probe droid just before they decided to pick the one that became final.
And what's great about this is kind of a stamp in time, is that he showed it to us as he was building it. But by the time but now it's all finished and it's up on his site. So you can actually see where he started and now where he's finished. But man, he was showing us the little bits and pieces of it. In this clip, you're going to see how dedicated he is to a lot of this stuff. Let's take a look.
So I'm working on the McQuarrie probe droid. It's like a mashup of his painting and a sketch. And actually, now that I think about it again, that might be a Joe Johnson sketch that I picked. But anyway, it is probably 1/12 scale, but I might have gone big. But who's to say that like the prototype wasn't a big boy? So this is like, like turbo probe droid. This is part of the head.
Wowzers.
And then I printed the eyes in clear, but I'm probably going to paint them black. And then I've done I don't know if you can hear my printer, but I'm printing body parts now. And then I printed the legs.
Wow.
Friction holds that. So yeah, that's that size. And
is that one? That's not one big piece. You printed all those separately, right?
They all articulate.
Whoa.
Pistons. I don't know.
Right.
Pistons.
Oh my gosh! Look at that. I thought those didn't move.
No. They all move.
Whoa.
It's all. Yeah. This one's especially insane because that middle part, also articulates.
Oh my golly.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes it isn't glued down completely.
Okay, that's all right.
I cannot believe the pistons actually actuate as well. That's insane.
Oh, it's the dumbest thing I decided to do this year.
But they make it look so much better.
My hands are killing me, so you can't imagine how long it takes to make like this little piston gun.
Did you put a brass rod in one of those?
Oh yeah. They 3D printed, and the rest is brass.
Brass rod.
And now on to episode 7, Charles Alanek. I mean, this is one of those guys that I was just to intro him a little bit. He's another worker at ILM. We got to know him through my buddy Jay. Funnily enough, he was not. We got to him, but his collection wasn't Star Wars. I'm sure he has some Star Wars pieces because he works in ILM.
Well, that's not a prerequisite. We'll look at other collections.
Exactly, but this was an amazing Transformers collection. What you're going to see on screen is maybe 5% of his total collection. It's insane the amount of robots he has behind him, and he took pictures of his collection. Man, it was one of those crazy collections where you could get lost in it for days just trying to spot and name all these different robots from all these different series of Transformers.
Well, I recognized a few of them he had back there because I collected a few of them back in the day. But the thing I love about this is you found a guy who had a Transformer collection that worked on all of the Transformers movies. I mean, it's one thing to sit there and say, hey, I collect Transformers. It's a totally other thing to go, hey, I collect Transformers and I work at ILM and I've worked on all the Transformers movies.
Talk about the right like, person for the right job, am I right?
the expert's expert.
Exactly. So it's no surprise that one of his big time collectibles was a Transformer, but specifically this one that had a little bit of lore to it. It was a blue variant Bumblebee. And to tell us more about why that is so special, let's take a look at the clip of Charles explaining it away.
Yeah.
In 2010, this little guy started showing up online, and like nobody knew what it was. It was this canceled release of some sort. And only a couple of them got out there. It's just a blue recolor of this guy. But something about this, it's something about this shade of blue really speaks to me. I'm a kind of a color guy. I really like.
But it was released as a Bumblebee, or it just was a Bumblebee mold.
It was never released. We have no idea what it was intended to be. So that was what made this kind of a weird thing. Is that it came out in 2010, and it wasn't clear whether it was supposed to be Bumblebee or whether it was supposed to be from. I don't know how. So Transformers toys often were borrowed from other toy lines. At least the first few waves of them were borrowed from a couple lines in Japan called Diaclone and Microchange from Takara, where they just took these molds that were not intended to be sentient robots. They were just like little mech suits or in the case of the mini bots, they were supposed to be like little toy cars or something. And they gave them personalities when they brought them over to the US. But in one of those pre-Transformers lines, there was a G1 Bumblebee that was in a shade of blue that was sort of similar to this, not spot on. So it might have been intended to be an homage to that. It might be a character named Glyph, who's a female Transformer who was created for one of the Transformer conventions. So I really wanted it because I love this shade of blue. Something about it just really spoke to me. And I liked that it had kind of like a mysterious origin. Nobody knew what it was, and we still don't.
Amazing.
We've never gotten any.
Because it has an Autobot sticker on his chest.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, it's not a knockoff. He is the. As far as we know, if it is a knockoff, it's a really, really good one because it's
like the same mold.
Same old identical quality to the official Bumblebee, but it's to the released Bumblebee. But and I just like that it's got kind of a mystery to it.
See, and I think that's amazing. Those it's almost like the Boba Fett that fired a missile. You know, it's like it was made for production. It's super rare. Great story. I love that. But there was a moment that touched me particularly in that, you know, there's people out there that like the prequels, don't like the prequels. There's people out there that like the sequels, don't like the sequels. Well, I'm not going to go into that. What I am going to go into is that like them or love them, there's always great moments in these movies.
Right.
And I was really stoked that I got to find out in our interview that he animated a scene that I always was a fan of, and it blew me away. Let's roll it. Let's check it out.
Actually, that was in the second one too. Yoda sword fights in the second one. So I did some Yoda sword fighting in episode 2, and then I did some more of the like the scenes where a few of the scenes where he's fighting the Emperor in the Senate chamber in the third one. And, which were a lot of fun. What I think the one that was most fun for me was the one where he realizes he's on Kashyyyk, the Wookiee planet, and he realizes that Order 66 has been enacted, and he feels the Jedi are dying, and he like has this kind of heart attack moment.
There's some acting there. Did you do that?
Yeah, that was my shot.
Whoa!
So,
wow!
I have always loved that shot. I was like,
oh, thank you.
Now that I know you, I can say I know the guy who did that shot. But I always thought because you don't clobber him over the head with it. He's not going. There's just this. You can just see he just kind of goes. Oh, he's just like, whoa. I felt that, but very nice work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was a really exciting shot for me to get to do because I getting to do acting with Yoda is a dream come true. So
you are.
Thank you very much.
All right, episode 8, Tom Spina. We might have mentioned him a few times. He has 2 companies, Tom Spina Designs, where they do restoration and preservation of film used props. And what the other company is called Regal Robot, and they do they have a license to do Star Wars furniture. Google that, you'll see on Regal Robot. It is more than I want to go into here. And they also are doing archive collections, where you'll see coming up later on in the podcast, I talk about the archive collection, but they have access to the Lucasfilm archives, and they are reproducing and making amazing collectibles that are limited edition, numbered, signed, yada yada yada. Awesome
Everything
stuff
that Kevin is into. But
this
first clip that we want to take a look at is something that I think is a very, very important line that people walk when it comes to collectibles. And it's we're going to get into it in the clip, but it's the difference between restoration and preservation. And it was 2 separate projects that were taken on by Tom, which is an original Leonardo costume that was worn for the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a Back to the Future 2 Marty McFly jacket. And we're going to take a look at the clip.
Future
and see,
Marty,
Future Marty. We're going to take a look at the type of restoration preservation methods that go into something like this. Let's take a look.
There was one of the turtles that came in, and myself and Mike Thomas worked on it in that little workshop for about 2 months. And, you know, the stuff that I've kind of come up with on this, and I am absorbing what came before and coming up with new stuff, you know, and here it is technique wise. And I dove into museum restoration. I dove into how effects guys patch stuff. I knew how I repaired latex masks, because anybody who makes latex masks, there's no such thing as a perfect casting. You've always got to fill in gaps or fix a seam. So, you know, I took that skill set and combined it with some of the materials of a museum conservator and some of those techniques, and then spit out a couple of new techniques that really work specifically for foam latex, which is a very, very unique material, and something museum conservators generally don't know how to handle.
The Marty McFly jacket from Back to the Future Part 2. And, you know, when I saw the initial picture, I thought, oh, they're going to put it all back together. And it was not that type of project. You guys just kind of slowed, like what you were saying earlier, you slowed the hands of time and tried to just kind of preserve what was there and present it as is.
Yeah, and put it in a conservation safe environment, you know, made a form that's custom made to it, an archival form with all safe materials and things like that, you know, aren't going to act upon this thing over time. Those jackets are really tough. We've seen a couple of them over the years. They are very thin rubber material that the closest approximation to the feel of most of that jacket at the time is a potato chip. You know, it's really tough. Crispy. Yeah, and that would be in the most, you know, probably in the upper sleeves and in the areas where you had the thinnest material and had probably seen the most abuse during production as well. And you know, that was tough. That was a really, really tough
I saw the story to that one, and I applauded your guys' efforts, because that was tough, and it was a tough call to make. Indeed. Honestly, I'm sure that their conversation was.
You appreciate the direction on that, because it's not as dramatic a before and after as Leonardo is.
No, it isn't.
You know, a lot of this stuff we've done, and it's nice to see that can be appreciated too. And I'm very appreciative of you bringing up just the whole restoration versus conservation thing as a discussion point, because I feel like it's a conversation we have a lot, and I don't know that it's something that people necessarily think about until we bring it up sometimes.
So yeah, I find that part of his business absolutely fascinating. He has to understand science in a way to understand the materials, to be able to preserve, to be able to restore. It's very interesting. Right. Now, back to what I was saying earlier, we also featured on a new maquette in his collection that he's coming out with, the archive collection, and that's a character called Weequay, which was basically one of Jabba's henchmen from Return of the Jedi. I believe he's one of the guys poking at the back of Luke to make him jump into the Sarlacc pit. But this is really cool because this was a sculpture by Ken Ralston, and Tom not only got access to the archives and they were able to scan it and everything, but he also got to have a lengthy conversation with Ken. And, you know, it's kind of an amalgamation of the two. There's the what you get from the laser scan, and then there's the understanding of speaking to the artist and what they were trying to convey and what choices they made, and understanding all that produces Weequay. Check this out. I just saw the interview with, was it Ken Ralston?
Ken Ralston, yes.
And, on Weequay, and his whole process of making this character who we see in Return of the Jedi as he's sort of one of Jabba's guards, right? He's kind of helping the whole situation of pushing Luke over the edge.
That's right. Yeah. Doink,
right.
doink.
Yeah. And
by the way, that's the sound effect that made. They cut it out of the
doink, doink.
Yes. If you watch the original mono version, you'll hear it. Doink, doink.
But you look at that character, and I remember, I can still remember taking that movie in the first time and thinking how well all those characters fit into that scenario, whether it was at the palace or on the barge, and that whole sequence. And then getting to see I would say is this the Rev? Would you say that these are what George approved, and then they used these to build? Wow.
So,
wow.
So here's the cool thing. And this doesn't really happen on movies now. And it's something that Ken really hits on in the video. And for people that are wondering about this video, go to, if you want brevity, go to the Regal Robot YouTube page.
Yes.
If you like in-depth stuff and want to hear me yammer on at Ken Ralston for an hour and hear some of the stuff Ken Ralston gets to say, go to the Tom Spina Designs YouTube page. Just go to YouTube, search Tom Spina Designs, look for the newest video on each. On Regal Robot, we have a cut down that is just his Star Wars talk, about 30 minutes, and another that's just the Weequay talk, about 8 minutes. And then there's the full hour conversation, which we put up on the Tom Spina Designs YouTube. I could have talked to him forever.
All right, so we came back from that. And what did we have to do at the end of most of these interviews, Kevin? We have to ask him the question.
We asked the question.
You can make anything. You can make anything. You can store anything. What is it that you collect? And he gave us, I don't know.
It's a doozy.
This is a doozy. Honestly, this is a doozy. He has one of the original for production use Grail diaries. Now, his Grail diary was, if I'm understanding correctly, the first one that was made for production, but not the one that they featured in the film. And he's going to go into why.
Yeah, let's have him tell us. Go ahead, Tom, take it away.
I have one of the Grail diaries from Last Crusade, which I was obsessed with that prop. That's one of these ones I did recreate because I thought the original would always be out of reach.
Wait, that's the original?
Yeah.
Okay, Adam just did a whole thing on this.
Yes.
Right? So,
oh my God.
So he must know you have. I didn't even mention that. My friend Tom has the one. I have to make my own.
I don't know if he mentioned it in that video, but he does know.
Okay.
But what's neat is, the one that I think they were examining for prop store is what we call the B props.
We talked about that.
So there were two different orders of diaries for the movie. The first order. The first order was a thicker book, more pages, more inserts, much more detail, different binding, not binding, but different facings on the outer pages, different type of paper, all of this stuff. Mine actually is the first of the hero books. It has almost a black cover. And the story is from the people who made it. And I have this one of my friends very nicely recorded them talking about this, but the husband and wife that run the shop that made these said they sent this to set, they filmed with it, and Spielberg said, make the rest of them brown. This looks too much like a Bible in black.
Ah.
And so this was set aside, and that's why it even exists now. That's why it's even out there.
So made for production, but
right. And it, you know, used in the production, you know, they say shot on, who, you know, I've never spotted it on film, but every way the hero book, you know, matching.
Well, Kev, I mean, that was a great recap for the year. I cannot, it's still, I'm still in shock over all the great guests we've had this year and all the great collectible stuff we got to see.
We have been fortunate. We have been
very fortunate. I know you and I have collected during the year, but unfortunately we can't show all of our collectibles, but I wanted to highlight some of the ones that we got this year to kind of show that we're just as diverse as everybody else.
We'll show 4 each.
We'll do 4. Yeah. And I think we have one that's in common here. I was able to go to Salvi's workshop and grab one of the, you know, the custom built lightsabers.
That's Ernie's design. You picked those parts.
Yes, I picked these parts. Very Mace Windu, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even with the purple blade. I can't show you the blade because it's going to go like straight out of the frame and everything.
Oh, but we've all seen a purple blade.
Exactly. I gotta say, this collectible is you know, one of those things that is hard to describe to everybody because you really do have to do the whole experience. You know, go to Sabi's workshop. You go, they do the speech, they do the assembly, they do the whole thing, and then at the end, you like raise your lightsaber. Everybody's seen that picture of everybody raising their lightsaber and turning it on for the first time, and just being there, you know. At Galaxy's Edge and doing that whole thing and then walking out with your lightsaber. It's an experience that I highly suggest if you're even into Star Wars just a little bit, maybe that's one of the one things you splurge on because it was fantastic. I got to do it with my son. They allowed me to do it with my son. So he got a kick out of it too, even though he's not necessarily a Star Wars fan, but he at least got to watch his dad get one, which was very, very cool. But this isn't the only kind of lightsaber that you can get there. Isn't that right, Kevin?
This is true. I did a thing. Generally, okay, there's some wonderful things about the lightsabers at Disney, but there are some things that perturb me a little bit. I think they're a little, let's just say, I think they have a little extra diameter. They're a little thicker than they would be. I like a lot of the modularity that is in your design,
right?
But it was really hard for me to do this. But I'm such a big Ahsoka fan.
Oh, are you a huge Ahsoka fan? I'm sorry, I don't think that's been mentioned enough on this podcast.
Physically and mentally, but when we went to Celebration, I went with Max and we went over to Galaxy's Edge, and they had this, and I was like, "Oh boy,
gotta get it."
I am no Jedi.
Look at that!
And this thing is awesome. I'm gonna try to do this with the music here. Let's see.
You can hear it.
Okay.
There
so what is inside?
Wow! Look at that.
It was really hard for me not to. I'm going to take the foam off so I can show you what's inside. It's, you know, numbered edition.
Look at that.
And, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, this was one of those things I just had to do. I couldn't. I'm going to close it now. And try not to lose a finger. There we go. But yes, so that's my one. They got me on this one. This, you know, because generally I like to have them a little bit more the correct size and everything like that. But you know, even those are a little thicker than they would be in my gigantic banana hands. It probably looks quite normal.
Right. Now, in your opinion, are these closer to Mandalorian or are these closer to the series?
You mean
Rebels
Clone Wars? No. No.
Yeah.
These are her new ones that we see in Mandalorian.
Okay.
We'll see in that we'll see in the upcoming Ahsoka series.
Right.
That she had to. Oh boy, spoilers, right? She had to leave her lightsabers behind at the crash site of the ship she was in during Order 66 to kind of fool Vader that she was dead.
Right, because who would leave their lightsabers, right?
Correct. Right. And if you read the Ahsoka novel, it explains where she gets new kyber crystals. There's a couple other places you can see that too. Tales of the Jedi stuff, things. Go watch, you'll see. But yeah, that was they broke me down on that because I swore I just, for the price of a Savi saber, there are other companies out there that make sabers that are more the correct diameter, and you can actually do combat with them. I've seen friends of mine that have Savi sabers that got a little overzealous and they're having issues with their blade. I believe I believe that the Savi ones, they say you can do light clashing, but
yes, light clashing I would say because I will say that because the blades that we got feel hefty. Like the blade itself is very hefty. It's heavy, because it has all the, like you were speaking about, the modularity to it, the crystal inside. You can buy different ones for different to light up differently and all this stuff. So it's very modular, and I think that's where a lot of the heft comes from. I let my son play with it. I let my other kid play with it, and I think if like I was to beam somebody over the head with it, it would probably crack. That's for sure.
Oh, sure, yeah, but so would their head. I mean, it will deliver a hit. Let's just real quick. I'll tell you, I have two sabers by a company called Parks Sabers. This guy named Jeff Parks. Early 90s, I see him at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm looking at his first lightsaber and I'm going, ooh, this is really neato. And I'm thinking about buying it. And I'm looking at the polycarbonate blade and I'm saying, yeah, but what if it, as I'm barely get the words out of my mouth, I'm looking at it in my hands like this. He has taken another one and he goes, whack. I mean, he hauled off and hit it. And I was like, oh. And then I went, okay, here you go. Here's my credit card, sir.
So combat ready, huh?
There wasn't a scratch on it.
Wow.
It took a full hit from a grown adult that wasn't holding much back. And to me, I went, all right, okay.
Take my
that
money.
Is well for about the same price, right?
Right.
I'd say do that to a Sabi saber, and you're going to be expletives, and you're going to be having a shattered thing in front of you, and you're going to be probably tearing up a little.
Probably just
so they're more for standing in front of the Falcon and waving, taking a picture.
Sure,
which there's nothing wrong with. There's nothing wrong with that.
But I think in terms of like sabers that are more commercially available, and in that means I mean like in whatever, they did release the FX lightsabers early on.
Again,
when they started doing this, those I think are like the FX sabers in terms of battle readiness, they're like at the bottom.
Yeah, they have no battle rating, right? But they are the right diameter. They're bang on. They look great. Yeah, and you can't remove the blade, so you can't really cosplay with it. So it's like
no.
And I bought one and I passed it on, and because it was like, man, this just it just. When I'm putting my money down, I get caught up in the moment. I bought it and I brought it home and I go, yeah, this is pretty cool, but I can't do anything with it. I can't cosplay with it and I can't fence with it. I can just turn it on and go lightsaber. Right. So
it's I get what you're saying, because
I gave it away as a nice gift. The person's very happy.
But you're happier with your Park saber.
I know that if I'm at a premiere or something like that and somebody hauls off and hits it, that I'm going to be more worried about their saber than mine.
That's quality right there.
And I don't feel I'm going to lose money. I'm like, okay, I feel somewhat safe.
Well, speaking of Comic-Con, because that's where you said you first saw that
very
one, right?
First Park saber. Yeah.
I wanted to show you the other collectible I was able to grab this year. It's been a while since I've been able to go to a con, mostly because of COVID and some other kind of life stuff. But one of my favorite illustrators makes his way to Comic-Con, and sometimes he's able to go out to the one we have right here in the. It's usually right behind Disneyland. It's called. Now I'm blanking. Shoot.
Just now.
No, it's shoot, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a more subdued Comic-Con.
Oh, you're talking about WonderCon.
WonderCon, thank you. Sometimes he heads out to WonderCon when he's not on a project or anything, but his name is Chris Sanders. A lot of people will know him mostly from Lilo and Stitch. Not only was that his movie, but he most people don't know that that's his voice for Stitch. He goes in accredited.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because it was
okay.
yeah. But he was also like Mulan, Lion King, all these different Disney franchises. But he sells these. These are really great. They're these resin statues, and here you could see it says Aloha on the front. He does a lot of Hawaiian inspired art, which is no surprise to anyone considering that's what Lilo and Stitch is all about. And his character design is one of like the most expressive that I've ever seen. These resin statues are really, really cool. They're usually kind of con exclusive. He doesn't sell them on a site or anything. And if you buy one from him at the booth, he signs it.
Oh, nice.
So it's always great to have, like, he's a really down to earth guy. He loves to talk to his fans and everything. I tried to convince him when I was at the con this last year. I would try to convince him to maybe do some sort of write a book that's half illustrations, half stories from the development of Lilo and Stitch, because a lot of people, I think myself and a lot of people are included, but want to see the show Bible in its entirety, like the first pitch, some of the development. I mean, there is a big story change happened because when the story was being developed originally, so the story revolved around flying a plane through, the middle of Hawaii between like these buildings. And after, September 11th, they're like, yeah, we got to cut that out. And we got to change that whole thing. Yeah. So, a lot of that stuff had to change and develop. But these stories, I just want to know more about it because it's one of the last hand-drawn Disney films that did so well. And it's always
I love to know the story behind the story. It's always fun. And
that's what it is. So whenever I'm able to get something like that from Chris, because I collect a lot of his stuff, sketchbooks included, I always try to chat with him a little bit more and maybe get some like behind the scenes on any one of his stuff. Cause his not only is his Lilo and Stitch stuff great, but his Mulan sketchbook is amazing. I wish he could release that one too, but since Mulan is a Disney property, it's hard for him to kind of have that stuff on his own.
Yeah. Well, maybe Disney will think of it someday or allow it.
They
do a lot of things. They release a lot of cool stuff, so maybe they'll get around to it. Let's hope.
Yeah. So give us another one of yours, Kev. What else did you collect this year?
Okay. Well, from our last interview, when we all met Mr. Tom Spina of Tom Spina Designs and Regal Robot at Celebration, I was able to get the Max Rebo maquette, which is a laser scanned replica off of Phil Tippett's maquette that he used to build the full-size Max Rebo from Return of the Jedi. Okay, here we go. Do a little B-roll here. B-roll.
Cut to the B-roll.
Okay. It's really cool because there are pictures of Phil Tippett using this. They would make these little maquettes, and then George would approve them, and then they would have to go realize it. And it's the one that got approved. What made it on camera, very similar, but you can see the differences. Again, this is storytelling. This is fun to see. This is what approved. You watch the movie, you see this is how it actually turned out. I love that. I love that part of movie making. Like here's my art one way, and here's my art filmed. Love it.
Just the transformation, like we saw with the beginning with Jason Eaton. what
Yes.
he saw in the sketchbooks and what became of the movie of its own.
Right. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
all. That's fun stuff. And so, you know, Tom's got a great company. He's got two great companies. But this is fun for me. This the archive series is amazing because they have the access to the archives. They're able to laser scan these things, so they're not Tom's interpolation of these things. They are lovingly recreated off of laser scans and then given to us in signed numbered editions. I think that's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
So
it really
glad to have
is,
it in my
man. Like,
collection.
it's great to have that kind of stuff with you, just kind of a piece of memorabilia that's not necessarily what's mass produced. And I think that's
it's
what you
connected
like
to
so
the
much.
movie in a special way too.
Right.
You know,
And
it's Phil's art that got approved, that got us Max Rebo,
Exactly.
which is so cool.
I think that's why a lot of people like Jason's stuff to begin with. He's doing it from something is from the movie, just earlier than what you did see, and before it was kind of transformed.
Sure. He's got a couple of things. He does restorations, of course. Then he also, he does his own mashups, and then he likes to do the sketchbook stuff, and then he likes to go full-blown studio scale perfect replica. And I say perfect because if you watch the episode, he got Lauren Peterson's approval. They would have put the extra detail in that Jason does on his X-Wings if they had the time and the technology. And I think part of this whole thing with 3D printing has made it possible time-wise. If they would have had that back in the 70s, they would have printed some of these parts. They would have printed some of the detail. It would have just been all kit bashing. They used every tool they had at their disposal. All Jason's doing is the same. He's using the tools that he's got, and it's making his art better. So,
and with what Jason has on his side, which they didn't have probably, is time and a lot of dedication.
Jason's under no pressure to get these done in a timely fashion when he's making his X-Wings. Yeah. So what is your next piece, Ernie?
So another kind of realization of something that was historically it's kind of a mashup of something that's historic and yet something mashed up with today's kind of stuff. Now, as everybody knows, I'm a retro gamer, and so a lot of the stuff I collect is something or things that are anomalies. I love collecting things that are anomalies because they not only speak about the technology at the time, but they speak about what the consumers were asking for at the time as well. Anything that is one-off, and they're like, we thought this would be cool, or an agreement would happen at once, like a Philips CDI, which is the Nintendo and Philips CD-ROM based system, which funnily enough helped launch the Sony PlayStation. It's one of those crazy things, right? So having a Philips CDI, even though the system itself is horrible, what you're really getting is the story behind it, right?
Sure.
And this is one of those pieces that I think is going to kind of it's been around for a while. This is the Beatles rock band Rickenbacker guitar that they sold. It did not come.
Was that Harrison's or was that Lennon's?
This is John's.
I can't tell.
This is John's, I believe. The great thing about this is this did not come originally with the Beatles rock band. The Beatles rock band set came with Ringo's drums and Paul McCartney's bass, but you could still play it the same way. It still has all the buttons. There's no difference in the guitar and the bass kind of movement here, or the button presses here. But what they did is they included the game and the mic stand with the mic because they wanted people to be able to harmonize. So they said, add 3 microphones to it, and the 4 of you can sing, I should say. But the great thing about this is this came separately. Like, you could buy this. It came as a special edition guitar. They have this one and they have the other one, which is George Harrison's guitar. And it's one of these things that they cannot reproduce this again because obviously they don't have the Beatles. They don't have the licensing agreement to remake these. These were a one and done kind of thing. The company makes them this Rock Band and Harmonix, and they're already, telling them this year they're going to shut down the servers for this game So
wow,
if you want to play online, or if you want to play, or if you want to buy like Beatles Rock Band albums for the game, you can't do that anymore. It's going to be one of those rare things where if you want the game with all the songs, you're going to have to buy an Xbox that's loaded with it and hope for the best. It's going to be sought. I have a feeling that these are going to be sought after, because when I went to go buy one of these, because I thought, oh, you know what? I busted out Rock Band recently, and then I started going through my guitar collection. Unlike a lot of people, I didn't throw them away. A lot of people threw these away, and I think that's what's going to create this nostalgia, because the only thing, like software itself, is becoming very easy. Like if I want to boot up an old game, no problem. Hardware is going to be the next thing that people are going to clamor for. And I think that this is going to be one of those things where people are going to want to collect the guitars in whatever system they want, because it's PlayStation. This is a Nintendo Wii one, but I'm trying to collect the 360 ones. And this was like my first one that I was able to get my hands on. But you can actually use these with two systems right now, which is the Xbox and the Xbox S, Xbox One, but not with the latest one. But what's really great is that now people are trying to hook them up to computers. So really? Because the whole thing runs on Windows, now they're kind of trying to make a way to keep this going, which again shows how like resilient and how much of a community is there to program these things, to get them working, and to play online with each other. So, I mean, this one was a tough one to get, even though it was for the Wii. I'm gonna this next year, I think my goal is to have all three guitars and kind of cool, maybe put them up in a display or something. But this was one, as a huge Beatles fan, and I just watched Get Back last year, which was the Beatles documentary they had on Apple Plus.
That was really cool.
You know, it's just I think we're going to see a resurgence on this kind of stuff. So it was a really great find. I'm really happy that I was able to start to get this stuff, because the great thing about this is, even though this is for a different system, if I get one it's missing some buttons or something like that, this becomes replacement parts. You know what I mean?
Right.
So just kind of rebuilding it. So really, just really happy with this, that I was able to get this.
We've got to make sure Yoko gets her money, Ernie.
That's great. What about you, man? What's your big find? Another big find from this year?
Okay, well, we're gonna B-roll.
Okay.
Iron Studios Ahsoka Tano 110 scale. I thought this was a
beautiful
sculpture. Imagine that. But I mean, it was. I really like the costume. I like that the blades were sharp. I like the pose. I like the painting. Face isn't exactly, Rosario Dawson, but everything else looks so nice, as you can see, that, and the price was right, and everything I went, okay, it's Ahsoka. It looks good. It's got, the pose is great. It's an action pose. And it's really nice sculpture, and it's Ahsoka. So I was like, okay, I'm getting it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I like the sharp points on the blades there.
Yeah.
I like now, she's using the turret.
Is this the first of the more real? This is the first of the statues that they've come out with for Rosario's Dawson version?
No, there's several out there that are depicting the Rosario era, as I would say.
That's what we're calling it.
This is just one of the many, and I think it looks great. So I decided to add it to the collection.
Now, you mentioned specifically that the sabers are pointed.
Yeah, if you watch in the series,
take us through that.
I think they started in the prequels, making them have little tips, right?
It tapers, right? It tapers and kind of rounds off. Yeah.
Well, they're slightly pointy, is what they started doing in the, and it's I've kind of liked that. I like that they did that, because it adds that saber feel to a lightsaber. If you
definitely does, right? Definitely does. Yeah.
So and like I was about to say, it's an action pose. She's using the terrain, and she's got both her blades drawn, and it's just fantastic. I think it's absolutely terrific. So that's why she's in the collection. I have many Ahsokas, but this is the one. I got the there's another one I thought about too. I was like, well, I have the Order 66 one where it's her and Rex, cutting their way through the floor, which is a great one. But I thought, well, I'm just going to show. I had to pick one, and I went, I'll just pick this one because Ahsoka, the series is coming out, right? And we're done with the Clone Wars now. So I thought I'd pick something that was heading towards the new series that's coming out. That was kind of my motivation there. So yeah, I think she's great. I think this is a great statue. It looks great in the collection. There it is.
Yeah, from a distance you can't see the face that well, right? So that's fine.
If you get up on the face, you start going, hey, wait a minute. But it's close enough. I always say it's got to be perfect. Not everything's going to be a laser scan and perfect. Sometimes, you got to look at the bigger picture. And when you look at the bigger picture, there's so many great things about this sculpt and this statue that I went in on it. The face is on. Now, look, if the face was like, if it looked like Burt Reynolds or something like that, I would have probably passed on it. But it had enough Ahsoka going on that I was like, okay, this is good. I like
it. And not to be too much on the Disney side, but my last one is pretty much another Disney prop. But I think most people will agree it's the Holy Grail of Disney prop because it's literally the Holy Grail. Now,
here we go, Ernie.
This one, I would say,
you chose wisely.
Oh my gosh. This was a great one for a couple of reasons. One, somebody surprised me with this for my birthday.
Neat.
Because they know, I don't have a lot of Indiana Jones paraphernalia because, for one, the hat and the whip are pretty expensive, and I don't really know how to display a hat properly. Yeah.
Right.
And there's not really a lot of stuff they give out for that isn't just like an action figure or anything like that. But this is one of those things where it's not particularly, there's nothing exciting about it. It just looks like a cup.
Except that it looks just like the prop from the movie.
Exactly. It totally does. It actually, it has some heft to it.
If you drink from it, you'll live forever.
Oh yeah, except for it says "do not drink" on the box.
Yeah,
but Disney did this as a run, and they stopped doing them right after August, I believe. And so I was very happy to get something that I can finally display from Indiana Jones because they don't really have anything that's really like something that you can hold in your hand. And I don't know how. I've tried to look movie clips and everything. It looks pretty close to what they have. I know this is nothing close
from
to
what I'm
something
seeing, who would know? Tom Spina would know.
That's what I'm saying. I think I got to show this to Tom and see hey, how does this hold up? Honestly, because
how close to model is this? We'd be asking someone, of course, if you haven't seen the episode yet, someone who has the first Grail diary.
Exactly. I'll compare it to the notes. Compare it to the notes. Yeah, but this is great. Like I said. It's a great piece to kind of display and look. And there's only just a little bit of markings at the bottom, say Indiana Jones and everything else. But it's a great piece. And I'm really glad that I kept the box with it too. Because I know that you and I sometimes display it. And because of Jay, I think I'm going to just keep it in the box for now.
Let's just be, I want to be clear. This is out to you, Mr. Jay Machado. I'm not saying get rid of the boxes. I'm saying show your stuff off.
Yeah.
But keep the boxes, right? Because, sure, the value's going to go down a little bit. But I always see, on Pawn Stars, when somebody comes in with something, they say, oh, you still got the box.
Well, yeah.
That's huge. So, don't, display your stuff, keep the box, right?
I think that's one, because I like a lot of my retro stuff. That's for sure one of the big things that gets asked. I don't personally care too much about the boxes for a lot of this stuff. That Virtual Boy did not come in box, and I don't think it really needs to be in a box, honestly. But something like this Holy Grail,
help, though.
I mean, you can kind of It comes in a pretty nice box, which I'll show off in the B-roll and everything, but it comes in like, it looks like a crate and it says Holy Grail on the side. So it kind of mimics that last scene. Yeah. So it is, that's why I decided to keep it, because I'm like, that shows that somebody understood why this is a good prop. So, you know, that's my Holy Grail for this year.
Now, my last one made me laugh.
Right.
Made me laugh so much that I bought it. All right. Okay, now we're going to show my very next collectible here. Just one moment, please. Okay. This is an amazing book by a scientist. Maybe you've seen this book before? Yes, maybe? No? Okay,
yes. Oh, yes.
by Dr. Ian Malcolm. Yes. Chaos Theory. Yes.
This is fantastic.
This is amazing because when you open it up, when you open it up, it's Dr. Ian Malcolm shirtless with
in
his
all
shirt open,
his shirtless glory. Look at that.
Glory. Yes.
That's fantastic. Look at that.
And I don't know if you can. Let me see if I can make this happen. Oh, so it opens up all the way. But if I do this,
but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could be not to see if they
right.
Fantastic.
Wait a minute, what is still off? I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Right. So,
dude, that's awesome.
There he is reclining, and it's and so it's it's not the greatest action figure, except that it's an action figure of Jeff with his shirt and his wounded leg and
his tourniquet leg. Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
You know what, the reason I love that pose so much is because it takes a real nice photograph of Jeff Goldblum at the time, because right now Jeff Goldblum in a lot of the Marvel movies and everything now, he's a very put together older gentleman and all this stuff. This was like sex symbol Ian McKellen,
Ian
sex
Malcolm. Yes,
Malcolm.
So he's
shirt
on the
off,
table,
sweaty.
And the doors open there. It's got a little door and everything like that. And,
that's so great.
So this, I was, when I saw this, I was just like, oh my God, take my money. I got such. This is by I think Mattel.
Let
me see and just double check here. I think so. I think it's Mattel. I can't quite. It doesn't say on there, but it may it was just so gitchy that I couldn't resist it. I was like, that's the book I want on my shelf right there.
Which is great because
dinosaurs.
it doubles as a book. So if you wanted to put it in and then you kind of just open it up with like,
you put it on the bookshelf and then people go, you have a book by Dr. Ian? Yes, I do.
Actually, I sure do.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. That's great.
Give me your hand. Okay. I'm gonna put this drop of water. Now, which way do you think it's gonna go? That whole thing. This
is what I'm talking about. Like with the Holy Grail box and everything, that they made the box a part of that collectible. So
you can't get rid of this box. This is how it comes, just like this.
Exactly.
And you get rid of the box, half of this whole thing's gone.
Right.
So I thought that was too fun, and I had to add that to the old collection. So there it is, folks. The
number
Dr.
4
Ian Malcolm action figure. Open
money well
shirt.
spent.
It was shockingly not that expensive, and there's nobody I've shown it to yet that hasn't laughed or took us off at that and thought it was very funny.
Well, you know what? I find that a lot of like really high-end collectibles end up becoming that. They're like not that expensive because there's
right.
a one and done thing, and people think, oh, people will want this, but it's not going to be a big deal. And then all of a sudden,
one of those things. Like they're gonna have at the 50th anniversary of Jurassic Park, people are gonna start pulling these out of the woodworks. Oh, that you have one of those. Oh, those are worth $25,000. Oh, if you have it in box.
Exactly, in box. And then Jay Machado is going to be somewhere going like, "I told you so."
This is not your run of the mill Jay Machado box. Okay, this is different. This is a box that's meant to be out and masquerading as a book. You see, so
that's fantastic.
There it is. That's that. Now we have more, and if you guys like to see more of these, we can do this as a segment. For heaven's sakes, leave a comment. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Like
down
below
there, down there. Good. Get your typing fingers. Yes, we can just leave a comment and just type it into the old keyboard there. Yes.
And make sure you rate Kevin's impression too, because you can sound up in the comments how good of an
who
Ian
wins.
he's doing.
Is it the Jeff Goldblum or the John Lennon? Which do you prefer? It's been really fun looking back on the year. It's been fun, and we've got so much more planned coming up in the new year. And I've told you a little bit about what we're planning for the next two episodes, and those are going to be mind-blowing. And we're so grateful for all of you out there that have watched our show. From me, I want to say I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys next year.
That's right, man. Like I cannot believe all the stuff we just went through. We squeezed that all into the first year of this show. And just so you guys know, we're planning definitely to go out and shoot some more stuff, because some of the guests that we have planned, they're around here, they're local. So we're going to get a chance to get out there and see some collectibles firsthand. I just can't believe some of the guests that we got lined up. I mean, we're going to get back to work here in January, but we want to say thank you to everybody who's given the show a chance. We really love to do this because there's nothing more that I like to do than talk to Kevin about collectibles. We just have such a great time doing the show and meeting all these wonderful people. I want to give them a big shout out, a big thanks to everybody who came on the show. And again, thank you guys. And I hope you guys have a great holiday season. And don't worry, you're going to be seeing us in 2023 with a slew of new guests. It's going to be amazing.
100% true. All of what he just said.
Hey everybody at Collect-Opolis. This is Jason Eaton of Jason Eaton Studio, wishing you all a safe and happy holidays. And I hope 2023 is just as crazy as 2022 has been. May we all live in interesting times. Yeah, the guns. They stopped.
Hi, Kevin and Ernie. It's Maya and Jason from Fez-o-Rama, and we're here to wish you and the entire Collect-Opolis family a very happy holiday and a wonderful new year. Thank you so much for having us on, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Happy holidays.
Hey there, Props to History here in Toronto, wishing all of the Collect-Opolis viewers and fans happy holidays. Props to History.
Hi, this is Charles Alanek. And I just wanted to wish a happy holiday season and a wonderful 2023 to all the Collect-Opolis fans out there. I hope this past year you found some fun, unique, new additions for your collection. I hope you find good places to put them, which can sometimes be kind of tricky. I hope you got to share your love of collecting with your friends and family. And I hope that you had fun making year-end top 1, top 5, top 20 lists. I hope that in the new year you find that holy grail that you're looking for. And I hope that whatever it is you collect, it continues to bring that little bit of extra joy to your life. So happy collecting and happy new year.
Hey to Kevin and Ernie and everybody at Collect-Opolis. This is Tom from Tom's Peanut Designs and Regal Robot. I want to make sure that you and yours all have a great holiday season. Thank you so much for listening, and great to see you all. Bye.
Don't forget to visit us on our Facebook group page. Like us, tell your friends. We would love to hear your feedback. You can comment on the show. You could ask a question or even leave us a direct message, or tweet us at Skywalking Pod and use the hashtag Collect-Opolis. We are part of the Skywalking Network,
Skynet,
where you can also find other great shows like the Neverland Clubhouse, Star Wars Ologies, Talking Apes, Totally Tell Me Everything, the Max FX podcast, and the flagship show, Skywalking Through Neverland.
And look for more shows on the Skywalking Network YouTube channel, like Today in Star Wars History, your daily Star Wars history lesson.
Well, that's it for this episode. I'm Kevin Toft.
I'm Ernie Moreno.
And thanks for joining us on Collect-Opolis.